Hello everyone, this is Dr. Sultan Mainuddin Shaukat Ali. Uh, we are here in this session to discuss about thyroid lesions on ultrasound, especially the special topic which I shall be talking to you in this session is on thyroids. Okay, so when on ultrasound you see any lesion in a thyroid gland, there are two options, or primitively, before there were thyroids, people used to give it like likely benign, likely malignant, intermediate, and then that doesn't hold true sometimes. So there has to be a standard system, and in order to avoid subjective differences, so a standard system was made, okay, by ACR, and that is called Thyroid system. So whenever you see a thyroid lesion, that thyroid lesion has to be given certain points. Okay, and based on that, we have got thyroids 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just like you have birates for breast, you have pyrids for prostate, you have lyrids for liver, you have urids for ovary, we have got thyroids for the thyroid gland. Okay, so without any delay, we'll be starting with this session on thyroids. Okay, I'll be taking it in parts, and I'll also explain it very fundamentally so that it is very easy for you all to understand. Now before I start, I want you all to inform that we have a special session which has already been recorded on thyroid technique of ultrasound. So you go through that technique, you go through the anatomy part first, so that you find very easy to understand my talk. Okay, I've discussed it in a very simple language. I have taken all the demonstration as well as I've shown the live video in that, so it will become very easy for you to understand. Okay, so chalo, we'll start today with the thyroid lesions. So when it comes to thyroid lesion, you need to understand that there is a system which is called thyroid system. So let us begin with the full form of thyroids. Here TI stands for thyroid imaging. RAD stands for reporting and data system. So thyroid imaging, reporting and data system. There are similar full forms for birates, urids, pyrids, lyrids, etc. etc. Okay. Now here, this thyroids is based on various subheadings. That is, this thyroids is given on the basis of various criterias or various observations. So, 5 important observations as per ACR guidelines. So, you have got this 5. So, let us come back to our previous slide. And this, you see, look for composition, you look for echogenicity, the shape of the lesion, the margin of the lesion, and the presence or absence of echogenic foci in any nodule. So whenever you have any lesion in the thyroid gland, you call it as lesion or nodule, and within that nodule you have to look for this 5 important things, that is the composition, the echogenicity, the shape, the margin, and the echogenic foci, presence or absence of echogenic foci. Okay, so now let us come to, so accordingly the each of these categories would be given a numerical value. So composition would be given some points. Okay, similarly echogenicity would be given some points, shape would be given some point, margin would be given points, and echogenic foci would be given some points, and then you have to add up the total point, okay, of composition, echogenicity, shape, margin, and echogenic foci, and the total points जो आएंगे, accordingly if you have 0 points it will become TR1, if you have 2 points it will become TR2, similarly 3 points will go for TR3, 4 to 6 points TR4, and more than 7 or 7 points will go in TR5. Okay, अब जितना ज्यादा टीआर होगा, यानी जितना टीआर 5 की तरफ, उतना ज्यादा चांसेस दैट इट्स मैलिग्नेंट। जितना ज्यादा, जितना कम टीआर होगा, यानी टीआर 1, रिमेंबर देयर इज नो टीआर 0, लाइक वी हैव बायरेट 0, देयर इज नो टीआर 0, टायरेट 0 नहीं होता। So tier 1 means most likely it's a benign. Again, tier 2 means also it's a benign, it's not suspicious. When you speak of tier 3, it is mildly suspicious. So tier 3 से suspicion शुरू होता है, mildly suspicious for malignancy. Suspicious यानी suspicious for malignancy. Tier 4, this is moderately suspicious for malignancy, and tier 5 high suspicious for malignancy. Okay. Now, till tier 2, we do not recommend FNA. There is no FNA, no FNAC. Okay, fine needle aspiration cytology. But once it comes to tier 3, if the size is more than 2.5 centimeter, you go for FNAC. Okay. Similarly, in tier 4, if size is more than 1.5 centimeter, you go for FNAC. But if the size is lesser, then you just go for follow-up. Okay. Now, if it is tier 5, mildly suspicious, you go for FNA if it is less more than 1 centimeter. Okay. Now, with this, a brief idea. Up tak I understand for those who are new, it will be bit difficult. So I'll be discussing each of this so that it becomes very easy for you to understand. So that you have got this 5 criterias, and each category is given a particular number. These numbers are added up, and based on this score, we give what is the Tirads value. Okay. So Tirads 1 to 5. Indication for malignancy risk as well as recommendation when to pursue FNA or when to go for biopsy is with the help of this Tirads procedure. Okay. So now let us come to our chart. So first is composition. Composition. Composition, what does it mean? Composition means what the particular nodule is made up of. Suppose this is thyroid gland. This is trachea here. And suppose within the thyroid gland, you see that there is a lesion. So there is a nodule. So how do you describe this nodule when it comes to thyroid? What are the important features? So first important thing is the composition. What do you mean by composition? So ये जो nodule है, जो दिख रहा है nodule, what is it made up of? Is it solid? Is it cystic? Or is it mixture of solid cystic? So is it cystic? Is it spongiform? Is it mixed solid cystic, or is it solid? So basically you have to see what is the composition of this nodule. So if it is solid, the entire part would be solid. So it would be echogenic. If it is partly cystic, partly solid, it would be like this. So some solid areas and थोड़ा एरिया सिस्टिक रहेगा. कैसे पता चलेगा कि वो एरिया सिस्टिक है? हाउ विल यू अंडरस्टैंड द एरिया विच इज सिस्टिक इज anechoic. Cystic area is anechoic. If it is entirely cystic, you will find that entire lesion is anechoic. Anechoic means it will be completely dark. Okay. And a very important physical phenomenon which is associated with cysts is that if you see a cyst, then just posterior to the cyst you will see that there is increased and intensity of ultrasound. So this is called posterior acoustic enhancement. So whenever it's a cyst, you find that it is anechoic and you see posterior acoustic enhancement, both of this will help you out to tell whether it's a cyst or not. Moreover, sometimes it can be combined solid cystic with predominant component, sometimes might be cystic, sometimes might be solid. Next important is it can be completely solid. Okay. Now, if it's completely solid, it's very important to look for vascularity within it. Okay. So composition में इतना समझ में आ गया you will have to see whether it's solid cystic, or it's completely cystic, or there is one more important composition. So let us come to that, which is called spongiform. So suppose if this is lesion and you see certain areas which are sponge-like areas. So certain sponge-like areas like this is called spongiform lesion. Spongiform lesion. Okay. So now depending upon if it's a cystic lesion, you have to give it 0 points. If it's a spongiform lesion, again you have to give it 0 points. If it's mixed solid cystic, you have to give it 1 point, and if it's solid, you have to give it 2 points. Okay, so got this is about composition. So how is it? I'll show you all the images so that it becomes easy. Once we discuss the other important categories. So another important part after this composition is ecogenicity. This is much easier to understand as compared to composition. Ecogenicity. So ecogenicity का मतलब है कि how bright is the lesion on ultrasound. Now in my second session on techniques of ultrasound, I have discussed that normal ultrasound is more ecogenic than muscles. So normally normal thyroid is more ecogenic than the muscles. So normally thyroid is bright or brighter than the muscles. Okay. So depending upon if you compare this lesion with the thyroid parenchyma, you have to see whether it's brighter than the thyroid or less bright than the thyroid or completely dark. Okay. So if it's bright, it becomes hyperechoic as compared to thyroid. If it's less bright, it becomes hypoechoic as compared to thyroid gland. If it is completely dark, it becomes anechoic. Okay. And suppose sometimes it is same in ecogenicity as that of the thyroid gland. If it's same in ecogenicity as compared to thyroid gland, such types of lesions are called isoechoic. Isoechoic lesions. So we have various criteria and these are the terminologies which we use. अब जो बता रहा हूं वो बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. VVIP स्टेटमेंट. Hypoechoic lesions. Hypoechoic lesions tend to be malignant. So कभी भी रिपोर्ट में when you mention hypoechoic, be very sure, because whenever you are writing hypoechoic, you are meaning that there are high chances that this is malignant. Always before labeling it as hypoechoic, just confirm कि वो cystic तो नहीं है. So cystic lesions are anechoic. And hypoechoic, what do you mean by hypo? Means it's a solid lesion which is hypoechoic. Okay, I'll show you all the images. For now, understand this. The ecogenicity is brightness, and you can have anechoic, isoechoic, hypoechoic or hyperechoic type of lesions, and most importantly hypoechoic lesions denote malignancy. Okay, now this part is clear to all of you. So now depending upon this, if it is anechoic, you give 0 points. If it is hypoechoic, you give 1 point. If it is hypoechoic, you give 2 points, and very hypoechoic, you give 3 points. So जितना ज़्यादा hypoechoic उतना points ज़्यादा मिलेगा. Okay, उसको. So this is what you need to understand. Now after this, the third important thing which you have to look for, or the third important category in this, is you have to look for the shape. So I'll explain you shape and then you have to look for margins. So let us take both of this together. So we come to shape now. So let us take this is a thyroid gland. This is the thyroid gland. This is the right lobe and this is the left lobe. In between there is isthmus. Now suppose there is a lesion in the thyroid gland which is here. So let this lesion be lesion A. Both of this we are saying in transverse section. Okay, transverse section, transverse or axial section में देख रहे हैं. So if this is neck, we have cut the thyroid in this section. Okay? And suppose there is a lesion in the left lobe which is like this. This is lesion B. Now, point to be noted, I want you all to give few seconds looking at lesion A and B. Look at both of these lesions very carefully. So, if you speak of lesion A, this is AP diameter and this is transverse diameter. Okay. So, in lesion A, transverse diameter is larger than AP diameter. Correct? Now, in lesion B, this is AP diameter and this is transverse diameter. Here in lesion B, transverse diameter is lesser as compared to AP diameter. So lesion A is wider, very important. So the term used is lesion A is wider than taller. Lesion A is wider than taller. Very important. Okay. And lesion B is taller than wider. Lesion B is taller than wider. Okay. So very important. So lesion B is taller than wider. अब इन दोनों में से when it comes to shape, it is this one, that is, if the lesion is taller than wider, it is this which favors malignancy. Okay, so taller than wider lesion favors malignancy. Okay, so now let us look back to our ACR chart. So you have to look at shape, whether it's wider than taller, assign it 0 points. If it is taller than wider, you have to assign it 3 points. Okay, so this is done. Now let us move to next important part, which is margins. Okay, so you have to look whether the margins are smooth, ill-defined, lobulated, or it has got extra thyroid extension. So for example, if this is a thyroid gland, when it comes to margins, you have to look if it is well defined, smooth, or you have to look if it is lobulated, or you have to look if it is ill defined. What do you mean by ill defined? When you speak of ill defined, ill defined का मतलब ये है कि you cannot tell कि where is normal thyroid parenchyma and where is abnormal lesion. So when you cannot differentiate, जब आप फर्क मालूम नहीं कर सकते हैं कि normal कहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है, abnormal कहाँ खत्म हो रहा है, that is an ill defined lesion. Okay, and suppose if sometimes the lesion can have extra thyroid extension, that is extending beyond the thyroid capsule. Okay, and it can extend to involve carotids also. It can go beyond the carotid sheath. Okay. So that is called extra thyroid extension. So depending upon this, again you have smooth margin 0 points, ill defined or lobulated, or extra thyroid extension. Lobulated and extra thyroid extensions are important and we give higher points to them. Okay. Now with this in our brain, the last portion of the Tirads category is the echogenic foci. If echogenic foci may be absent, or if present, they may be comet tail, or you can have macrocalcification, punctate microcalcification, or peripheral rim calcification. So discuss each of this and then we'll move to a detailed explanation of each of this. Okay. So when it comes to Suppose imagine this is thyroid gland. Okay? This is the thyroid gland. And so you can have calcifications within the lesion. Okay, suppose there is a lesion, you can have calcification. So how will calcification look? It would be echogenic. Will be echogenic. Okay, and very important, what does calcification have? Calcification shows shadowing. So calcification shows posterior acoustic shadowing. Okay, very important point. Now यहाँ पे I would like you to again pause and look for, suppose there is a lesion. Now these are large calcifications. So large calcifications are called macro calcifications. But sometimes the lesion might have very small punctate calcifications. Sometimes lesion might have micro or punctate calcifications. Punctate calcifications जरूरी नहीं, not necessarily they would give shadows. Okay, so जरूरी नहीं कि वो shadows देंगे. So these are micro calcifications. Now most important point, when it is macro calcification, it generally denotes benign pathology. But microcalcification, remember, it denotes malignant pathology. Okay, especially papillary carcinoma of thyroid. Okay, papillary carcinoma of thyroid when it's a benign, punctate calcification. Okay, now the third important echogenic foci which is seen is, suppose this is a lesion. So you can see that in periphery you might have such a calcification. These are called peripheral ring-like calcification. So ring calcification. Ring calcifications are again benign. Ring calcifications are benign. Okay? And another special type of calcification, another type of echogenic foci which you can see is, suppose this is a lesion and you might see multiple hyperechoic foci within this, and you might see hyperechoic tail-like thing. So these are called comet tail artifacts. Comet tail artifacts. Comet tail artifacts are classically seen in cysts, colloid cysts. They are classically seen in colloid cysts. Okay, so with this you understood that what are the various echogenic foci which are seen within the lesion. So you can have punctate calcification, which are microcalcification, which denotes malignancies. Macrocalcification, they are usually seen as benign lesions. You can have ring-like peripheral calcification or arc calcification, or you can have comet tail artifacts, which are commonly seen in colloid cysts. Now, with this, let us move back to our chart. So, when it comes to margins, you have seen the margins, we come to echogenic foci. So, in echogenic foci, you have got absence, that is no echogenic foci, so you give 0 points. If you have comet tail artifacts, also 0 points because it's seen in cysts. Both of these are 0 points. Macro calcification, you give 1 point. Peripheral calcification, you give 2 points. Punctate echogenic foci, you give 3 points. Because remember, micro calcification are benign. So if it's punctate calcification, it would go more, that is, it would be gaining higher points, that is more towards malignancy. Okay, got this thing clear? So again, so in this session, I've discussed about the various Tirads criteria, that is category, what we do. So we look for 5 important things. Number 1 is we look for composition. Number 2 is we look for echogenicity. Number 3 is we look for shape, margin, and echogenic foci. Okay. कंपोजिशन इज व्हाट, वो किस चीज से बना है, वेदर इट्स सॉलिड, सिस्टिक, स्पॉन्जिफॉर्म और मिक्स सॉलिड सिस्टम। इकोजेनिसिटी यानी वो कितना ब्राइट है, हाइपर इकोइक, हाइपोइकोइक, एनीकोइक या आइसोइकोइक। नॉर्मली जितना ज्यादा हाइपोइकोइक उतना ज्यादा मैलिग्नेंसी का चांसेस है, सो मोर हाइपोइकोइक मोर द चांसेस ऑफ मैलिग्नेंसी। देन यू स्पीक अबाउट वेदर व्हाट इज द शेप, शेप यानी वाइडर देन टॉलर या टॉलर देन वाइडर। हमने देखा कि जितना टॉलर देन वाइडर है उतना चांसेस ऑफ मैलिग्नेंसी ज्यादा, दैट इज ए ट्रांसवर्स सेक्शन। फिर हमने मार्जिन देखे, सो मार्जिन में मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट लोब्यूलेटेड और एक्स्ट्रा थायराइड स्प्रेड इज सजेस्टिव ऑफ मैलिग्नेंसी। वी सॉ मल्टीपल इकोजेनिक फोकाई in which absence of ecogenic foci or presence of multiple ecogenic foci like macrocalcifications. Microcalcification denote malignancy. Macro is benign. You have ring-like peripheral calcification or arc-like calcification, and then you can have punctate, sorry, you can have comet-like artifacts which are classically seen with cysts, colloid cysts. Okay, so with this, I'll end my session, which is Thyroids 1, which is an introductory session to Thyroids. Now I'll take a second session on Thyroids. In this session, I've shown you all the ultrasound images of the findings what we have discussed presently. So you need to know these fundamentals what I've discussed in this, or once you understand this, you will enjoy all those findings which I'm going to discuss in my next lecture. Okay, so till then I want you all to see this session, and if you're not able to understand, relook at it, rewind it, and I hope the things will become very clear. And you can tell me the feedbacks and comments in the comment section below. So you can put your feedbacks on the videos, and you can tell me whatever points or additional information you want. So surely we'll try to add that. Okay. Thank you.